right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am so sorry about the delays. This is humbly my first time hosting an event, so it's been definitely a huge. Um, there's been a lot of ups and downs. I think that's the best way to put it. But I am so proud of and so happy to be here today with how wonderful our event turned out in terms of all the hard work put in by our e-board. I'd love to give them a round of applause. And I'd also love to give a huge round of applause to our speakers. Could everyone give them the biggest round of applause possible? They are just incredible, and I'm so excited for you guys to see what they have to share. But before we get started, I also wanted to thank Paul Burgett Intercultural Center, the Dean's Office, Student Association, and Office of Equity and Inclusion for sponsoring us today. It could not have been possible without their help. All the food and the decorations in our raffle could not be possible without them. So in terms of logistics, we'll be doing a raffle at the end. We have 4 gift cards that we're going to give away, so get excited for that. And feel free to grab food at any time during the event. We'll also have an intermission after it's in the program after our 3rd speaker. So, all right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kirthana. I'm the president of ROCTalks. This is our first annual event. And before we get started today with the revolutionary ideas, the sparks of interest, and the personal stories today that matter so much to our speakers, I wanted to start this afternoon off with a story. I think it was only right to start this with what revolution means to me and what it's meant to me in my life. So when I was born, my parents could not decide on a name for God knows how long. They were just bickering back and forth between ideas, and eventually they decided on a middle ground that neither of them really liked that much. And today I'm named Kirthana, and by definition that means God's song. As a young girl that could not sing for the life of me, I just could not understand how to associate with my name, how to believe in who I am, and how to just tie my identity back to where I came from. So I remember when I was 16 years old, I asked my dad, if you had the chance to go back to when I was born, and name me anything that you wanted based on who you think I am today, and based on my personality, based on what you've learned from me, what he would choose to name me. And that's when he told me about the story of Jhansi Ki Rani. So Jhansi Ki Rani is she was a queen in Indian history, and her kingdom was the city of Jhansi. And rather than being known by her actual name, she goes by the name of her city, which tells you more than enough about how much of an impact she had on her city and the people around her. So Jhansi Ki Rani's story starts with the time in her life when her husband, the Maharaja of the kingdom, passed away. And the couple's only child that they had was an adopted child, and because of a doctrine set in place, the child couldn't be an heir to the throne. Taking that as an advantage, the British colonialists at that time decided to invade the village and capture it, loot it, and colonize it. The queen of the city ran away and took her child with her and joined the rebellion against the British colonialists. A couple years later, she single-handedly led an entire army into battle with her child on her back and was eventually martyred in that fight. She fought for her city, she fought for her people, and she fought for what she believed in. And while my dad couldn't name me after this legendary figure in history, it really taught me something about what it means to be a revolutionary. Today I'm named Kirthana, and my 16-year-old self couldn't understand it, but I understand now that my name is tied to my identity. But I think it's really important for us to honor the strength that this figure in history had. She not only stood up for herself, but she also just decided to grab destiny by the throat and tell it to back off. She wasn't afraid to stand up for what she believed in. She wasn't afraid to stand up for what is right. And I think that her strength represents my strength, but she represents the strength in each and every one of us. Women, children, the marginalized, and more. To be human means to fight. To be human means to be strong, to fight for what you believe in, to fight for what is right, to fight for justice, but also to fight for those who can't fight. And I think that that's, what revolution means to me. A loved one in my life taught me the phrase "Inqilab Zindabad," and this was something that countless martyrs in the fight for independence in South Asia would live by, stand by, as they fought to their death for independence. And I think that that human spirit to always believe in yourself, to believe in the people you love, and to believe in what stands true to your heart is what makes us so extraordinary. And I think that that's what revolution is at the end of the day, to stand up in the face of adversity and to just be human. So today we bring to you guys so many different speakers talking about several different definitions of revolution, not just what it's meant historically or politically, but rather just this this chase for something new, this chase for something different, challenging the status quo, challenging what everybody has always told you your entire life. So you'll hear from our speakers about democratization of art, about capitalism in a society with AI. You'll hear about active learning. You'll hear about the power of being a singular individual. You'll hear about so many wonderful, beautiful ideas. And I hope that you leave here today inspired to be someone different and inspired to not be afraid to make change in whatever circle of life that you can. And so I present to you, ladies, gentlemen, and all the beautiful souls in the audience, ROCTalks in and as Revolution. All right. So our first speaker of the afternoon is Masum Hassan. He's a PhD student at the Department of Computer Science at the University of Rochester, and he's currently working on making online education content substantially interactive, personalized, and accessible using generative AI. And the title of his talk is Rethinking Capitalism in a Society with Artificial General Intelligence. Give it up for Masum.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. So, my talk is about rethinking capitalism in the age of AGI. I'd like to start with a story. When I was young, my dad used to be a tailor in my village in Bangladesh. He used to make handmade clothes. He would measure every person and build custom-made clothes that exactly fit their body type and their preferences. He was craftsy with his scissors. He was artsy with his tailoring job, and his handmade clothes were symbol of prestige across many villages. People from other villages would cross river to come to get their clothes made by him. Around in 2010, his business was not making as much profit as it once used to. My dad, who was a middle school dropout and a self-made entrepreneur, he thought it was a fluke. It's going to come back. He took a bigger loan from the bank and invested even more heavily into his business. Unfortunately, the business did not return. At the same time, another industry was booming in my country. That was the ready-made garments industry. Over time, the cheap clothes made in an assembly line, mass-produced, which comes in only 3 sizes, small, medium, and large, vastly overtook the personalization and craftsmanship. So, and that was after 31 years of successful operation, my dad's business shut down and he retired. And this was not an isolated incident. This was happening to all handmade tailor shops, many of whom had to quit their job and go to the cities and work for, guess what, the garments companies. The ready-made garments industry is the best thing that happened to the economy of my country. But that's the side effect of automation. It prioritizes convenience and cost over humanity. Today, we have a new type of automation coming. We have AI systems that talks like experts. We have AI that can paint like artists. We have AI that can sing like musicians. And artificial general intelligence, or AGI, is right knocking in the corner. So what is AGI, you might be asking? There's many definitions, but the definition by the biggest leader in AI, which is OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, they defined AGI as an autonomous entity that outperforms humans in most economically valuable work. Pay attention to the definition. They did not define AGI based on their intelligence. They defined AGI based on its ability to replace workers. That's exactly where the industry is headed. There was a time when the research in AI was driven by curiosity and exploration, but now it's entirely driven by profit. Capitalism is probably one of the biggest forces in our 21st century, and it touches everything that we built, everything that we love. And it's a great force when it can do great things. However, an unrestricted capitalism, an unregulated capitalism could prioritize profit over humanity, could prioritize short-term gain over long-term sustainability. That's why we have regulations such as anti-competitive laws that stop big companies to crush the little guys. That's why we have environmental regulations that help save the ocean from oil spills. But unfortunately, the progress of AI is so fast that by the time our regulators understand what's happening, it might be too late. If our economy stays and goes along exactly as it is right now, soon we might have a higher income inequality than ever before. We might have a higher income inequality than ever before, and the rich will get richer, the poor will get poorer. Many people, the layoffs is going to increase, homeless is going to increase, and it's going to cause a tremendous amount of social unrest. But I'm here to argue that it doesn't have to be that way. We can choose to make a different direction. We can choose to go a different path by letting the freed up time, the time that was saved by AI, if we give that time back to the people, we could have an entirely different outcome where humans have the time to be human. What does it even mean to be human? So Alexander Pope said, to err is to human, to forgive divine. Rosecrans Baldwin said, to be human is to have a collective memory of where you come from and how you got there. And some other smart person said, to be a human is to strive towards a higher goal where accepting our limitations and embracing our failure. I don't think any philosopher said anything about a performance metric or sales quota, right? So, but how often do we even, in our modern day, how often do we get the time to be the things that makes us human? How often making mistakes takes time, forgiveness takes time, striving towards higher purpose takes time. How many of us think that 24-hour in a day is not enough to get things done? Could you please raise your hand? What if AGI could finally give us back the one thing that we all desperately want? Time. I'm happy to report that the movement have already started. Today, many companies in the US and particularly in Europe are trying to get a 4-day work week instead of 5 without decreasing their employee salaries. And what I'm trying to argue is this should not be just trying, because trying doesn't work. We must demand for it. We must fight for it. This has to be the norm. And eventually, We can get the saved time. Instead of laying off people, we can get the saved time back to the people and distribute it to everyone and let everyone contribute to the economy and participate in the economy. And a 4-day work week might be just the beginning. Eventually, we might have 3, 2, 1, and boom, universal basic income. This might be the starting step for us to eventually get to a point where working becomes optional. So, what would you do with your free time? I would like to show you one example. Me and my research team at University of Rochester Department of Computer Science, we're building a virtual avatar-based, AI-driven education platform that can teach you on many, many different skills that you would like to learn. Eventually, that day is not too far when we will have AI system that will teach you college-level courses on any topic you desire almost for free. That day is not too far when every child and adult will have access to a hyper-intelligent personal tutor who would teach them on anything that they want to learn, any passion that they want to pursue. Speaking of passion, if you have a passion, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a creator, this might be the best time for you to pursue your passion. Because the same power that your employer has to automate your job, you have the power of automation to do the things that you love to do. Using an AI or AGI could become your business partner, your mentor. It could become your software engineer, your coder, your HR. This could significantly accelerate if you pursue your goals and your passions. So for people pursuing their passions, this might be the best time in history. Today we have a significant negative attitude towards AI. A lot of people are trying to stop AI, ban AI, and people think this as an evil entity, but AI doesn't pick a side. AI is not good or bad. It just amplifies what we ask it to do. It just amplifies the biases that we have in our current society. And the biases and the problems that we had with our societal system and capitalism, all of them are first time being visible with AI. Now, it's for us to choose whether when we saw the symptom, do we ignore the symptom or we do something about it? AI is a accomplishment for all of us. No single individual or company could create AI or is going to create AGI. They're using the data that we produced on the internet by ourselves. Even if you are not one of the creators, the content on the internet that AI was trained on was created for you. So you could consume that content. So passively, you are the reason that the content was created on which the AI was trained on. The accomplishment of AI is a collective accomplishment for our entire species. And the benefit should go to our entire species, all of us, not to a few. And however, the benefit of automation is not automatic. We have to demand it. We have to ask for it. We have to fight for it. And if we play our cards right, if we demand, and we're successful in getting what we truly deserve, we may redefine the story of our species. So let me tell you a story about a species called Homo sapiens. They were hunter-gatherers. They lived in small tribes. And at some point, they invented something called language, which allowed them to talk to each other, to share their feelings, to share memories, and to share their learning, which made them stronger. They shared stories with each other. They bonded over stories. Their group grew in numbers. They became the dominant species on the whole planet. with the power of stories. Eventually, they created something called writing. They could write down their stories and pass it through generations. So they could learn from their ancestors' stories and avoid their mistakes. They grew smarter and smarter. And eventually, they created machines to do their manual work, so their job got a little bit easier. However, they started doing something called a 9-to-5 job. And they started dreaming about an imaginary concept called the work-life balance that nowhere existed. So, and they worked, and eventually they created a strange machine called computer. This strange machine had more memories than any of their brain ever had, and even all of their memories combined. So they could now store all their memories, a lot more memories than they ever could using this machine. And eventually they started to talking to each other over something called the internet. They talked and they talked, and they argued about the color of the dress. They talked to each other, they laughed, they loved, they bonded more than ever before. And all their talking was stored on the internet, on the cloud. And then the TikTok influencers and a few other mistakes later, they realized they could turn that talking into a talking machine. A machine that could talk like them, a machine that could do the 9-to-5 job that they dreaded. And eventually, they made a machine that could do the 9-to-5 job for them. So finally, they were able to relax and take the vacation that they always wanted. Finally, the human species might be able to slow down and realize that humanity doesn't have to slow down if humans slow down. When I was younger, me and my siblings, we could barely see our dad. He was working pretty much morning to late night. In some high intense seasons, he would sleep in the shop. He had to work so hard and make so many clothes that he has to sleep in the shop. After his retirement, he has infinite free time to spend with his friends, family, his grandkids. As a pious Muslim, he always had a dream of visiting the Holy Land of Makkah and to visit the Holy Pilgrimage, and he never got to. I'm happy to share that last month, in the month of Ramadan, he was finally able to visit the Holy Pilgrimage, and that was a milestone for him, and he could only do that because now he has the free time to do so. And a semi-retirement for our species might turn out to be unexpectedly good for all of us. Thank you.
I think it's definitely very eye-opening to think about AI and what it can do to better our lives, but also, a lot of people are afraid of it, right? I can confess that I've used ChatGPT one too many times at my time at the university here, and I don't know if I should be worried about that. But I think, this talk definitely is very eye-opening. Next up, we have Hanan Allen. She is an educator, travelista, and Rochester native who's passionate about international education. In her current role as Assistant Director of Student Activities here at UR, she supports the multicultural programming on campus and enjoys working with the future leaders of tomorrow. Hanan's talk title is Global Vibes Only. Please give it up for her, and I hope you guys enjoy her beautiful story.
from the U.S. to Fiji and many oceans in between. Growing up with a Moroccan heritage and being multilingual has been an important part of my identity and truly influenced my international trajectory. Shout out to Casablanca, one of the most beautiful countries of the motherland. If you know, you know. And honestly, I can say having this background has truly influenced me to be a compassionate leader. And I say the word compassion because translating my name, fun fact, it means Arabic. It translates to mean compassion in Arabic. And being able to hold that within my life, within my story, and just being able to serve here at the U of R, I can say it has honestly transformed me to be a bigger and better person. And throughout my journey of service and pursuing higher education, I'm just honored and blessed to be able to have this platform to speak to you all today. Shout out to ROCTalks as well for organizing this program and just giving us an opportunity to empower you all, engage with you all, and just be ourselves. As I think about my story and I think about my life, I'm very proud to say that I am a first-generation college graduate. Can I have the clicker, please? Any other first gens here in the room by chance? Let's take a moment to give each other a round of applause. Thank you. And being a first gen college graduate, I can say that it takes a lot of honor, grit, and compassion to just be able to navigate the world the way that we do with limited resources. Growing up here in the inner city of Rochester, New York, 585, I can honestly say that Rochester is a city of potential. It is known for its high crime rates, its underfunded public schools. It's known for its underfunded public schools, but I want to say that Rochester is honestly a city of potential. And being a born and raised native here of Rochester, I can honestly say that I'm proud to be from here. There's so many that have come out of this city and allowed us to thrive both in and outside of the classroom. Hence, I'm also a proud returned Peace Corps volunteer, and through my journey of service, I've been able to build so many global connections worldwide. And living there for 2 years, I can honestly say that it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me and provided me with a platform that I never knew I needed. Throughout my journey of service, I can say that I come from a legacy of leaders who are resilient. And throughout that time, I have been able to truly transform my life and serve. Can you all hear me? Throughout my journey of service, I have had the opportunity to be able to teach primary school students. They were my pride and being able. I'm sorry about this. Starting again. Throughout my journey of. Is that better? Can you all hear me? Perfect. As I was mentioning, being able to serve in the primary school and teach grades K through 8, it honestly gave me the confidence and the boost that I needed to be able to teach a group of kids, empower them, and show them that they are capable, and education is something that they should never be able to take for granted. I was able to spice up the classroom and introduce them to new concepts such as Jeopardy. That became their favorite game and ultimately something that they wanted to play every day on a daily basis. And just understanding and knowing how inquisitive their minds were, they always wanted to just absorb every piece of information that I had to offer. It ultimately became a great cultural exchange and allowed me to boost my confidence, boost my public speaking skills, and just show them that no matter who you are in the world, you are capable of being somebody. They were my ultimate pride and joy. I served in the community youth empowerment sector, and one of the biggest highlights of my service, I can say, is implementing a water sanitation project. And when I tell you that water is essential, and it was one of the biggest lessons that I've learned to never ever take for granted. With the help of the Vianney Village Water Committee and we were able to successfully implement a water project to construct 2 new dams, install new piping systems, and with the help of 16,000 Fiji dollars, it ultimately taught us that water is essential and really gave me the platform to learn from the grassroots level upward and beyond. We were able to transition from having water available from 0 to 2 hours a day to unlimited access that truly unlifted so many unspoken basic needs. And one thing I can say honestly and truthfully, the reason why we were able to implement this project and make it become alive is due to the fact that back in 2017, the Ministry of Health actually diagnosed our community with the typhoid epidemic. For those of you who may not be aware, typhoid is a bacterial disease and infection that is caused by contaminated food and water. And as we conducted a community needs assessment, figured out the best ways to go about implementing this water project, I realized that this is something that we really need in order to improve the livelihood of everyone involved, women, children, elders, and everyone in between. And being able to work through this issue really improved the livelihoods of everyone and gave me a chance to be fully immersed in my community and understand what international community development is all about. And as I take a look at these pictures and reminisce back on my time in Fiji, as you may notice, a lot of the male task force was a huge part of the construction labor. And as a Black woman being placed in a rural village, I can say that my presence definitely challenged a lot of the patriarchal systems in place. But I wanted to take a different approach and be able to show my community that as a woman, I'm willing to get my hands dirty, I'm willing to get down and dirty as well, and just be able to help you out in the best way that I possibly can. Challenging those gender roles, breaking those stereotypes, really liberated the voices of the women and children in my community to be able to show everyone that we are capable of getting the job done. And being grateful and thankful to the Fiji Water Authority and the community members that were involved, we were able to impact over 400 people in my rural community. Throughout my time, I would have endless conversations with the women, the children, and just let them know that embodying many diverse backgrounds of the U.S. and being that active representation showed them that at the end of the day, melanin is beautiful, melanin is powerful, and it comes in a plethora of endless shades. And just being able to represent a different part of the U.S. and show them that we are all here to make a difference, I feel like allowed me to really impact my community and learn from them and vice versa. I love the women, I love the children, and they really gave me the power and the courage to embrace my natural beauty, embrace my natural hair, and just be fully immersed in everything that comprised of who I was and who I am and where I come from. And I remember one day specifically speaking and talking with one of the women in my community. She came up and told me, "We are so lucky to have an American volunteer who looks like us because you are family." And in that moment, it made me realize that I'm right where I belong. Community, family, identity are all merging together beautifully to be able to give me the opportunity to really learn something about Fijian culture, customs, and be able to be my authentic self and share my heart. And throughout my time, I can honestly say that I fell in love with the country, I fell in love with the people, nature, and just being able to fully be myself in a place that I honestly never knew existed. When I was applying to the Peace Corps, I was shooting my shot. I never would have predicted in a million years that it would become my island home by the age of 22. And fast forwarding 7 years later, I'm very honored and blessed to be able to say that I've encountered so many cultures of the world by the age of 29. And just having the honor and privilege to be able to say that, it has been able to really bring the culmination of all my international experiences here to U of R, working with multicultural students, and just being able to share my experience, empower everyone around me, and encourage you all to get out there, travel the world, and see everything that it truly has to offer. And falling in love with Fiji, I feel like it just really made me have a greater appreciation for nature, the invigorating sunsets, the hospitable host country nationals. It was more than I could have ever predicted and expected for my journey. Two holistic lessons and takeaways that I can say that I've gained from my experience is number one, be comfortable being uncomfortable because the power of vulnerability allows you to achieve exponential growth. Throughout my time, I had the honor and privilege of living in a northeast island called Vanuatu. On the right, you can see a small wooden house with a tin roof. I lived with no electricity and, as I mentioned, very scarce water availability. Definitely not the Google images that you would predict when you think about Fiji. It allowed me to truly live like a local and fully immerse myself in the land that I was serving and be able to connect with the indigenous people of my community. And I remember always telling them and allowing them to embrace who they are. Don't live in the mind of the colonizer. You are free. Reclaim your power and always be proud of your indigenous land. Fiji was colonized by the British, and that was something that I can say has truly impacted the view of themselves and really allowed me to tackle a lot of ideologies of colorism and emphasizing my previous point about melanin, just allowing them to understand to love the skin that you are in. This is a beautiful country with beautiful people, and being able to still have roots of your indigenous native dialect speaks large volumes. The second lesson and takeaway that I can honestly say is looking back and thinking about my Fiji family. Number two, love is universal and human connection is a global principle that has honestly carried me throughout life and has given me a sense of belonging. When I look at these two, my heart instantly is just filled with joy. On the left, we have Memelangi. On the right, we have Ratu Chope. For context, Ratu translates to mean chief in English. And whenever he greeted me, he always greeted me with the biggest smile and referred to me as Andiana. He was somebody that I could always be my authentic self around. He introduced me to a love of reading. Over the course of my 2 years, I read over 100 books. We developed our own low-key book club, as I would say, and he was somebody that really taught me the importance of intellectual stimulation. Just being able to dissect those novels, interact with him, and fully challenge myself in that way, I can say, allowed me to grow holistically and allowed me to really critically think. Allowed me to critically think. And he's someone that I refer to as my Fiji father. Memelangi, on the other hand, she was 3 years old when I first met her. Sweetest soul. We stayed up late watching movies, playing Uno, gazing at the stars, just enjoying each other's company. And to be able to really connect with her on that level and learn the native language, and in exchange, I always taught her English. She made me feel safe. She made me feel seen and valued, and just being able to connect with the children was honestly one of the biggest highlights and takeaways that I can say that I've gained throughout my international journey. And because of these two, because of my Fiji family, I can say I really learned what it meant to have a sense of belonging and going back to community identity and family, my home away from home. As I think about my story and commemorating and reflecting on my international experiences, I can honestly say that living and working abroad has truly molded my character, enhanced my adaptability, and given me the chance to grow in exponential ways that I never saw coming. And really taught me that at the end of the day, travel is the best educator. And being able to see many cultures of the world, learn new languages, engage with people who were different from me, I can say that it has truly shaped me to be a bigger and better person, and overall has given me a lot of time to really ground myself and stay true to my journey, mind, body, and soul. And going back to identity, family, and community service, I can end you all with this note saying that education is the gateway to a world of infinite opportunity. And by utilizing a lot of culturally responsive pedagogy, we can use that as a powerful tool to truly build a inclusive world for humanity. So, leaving with that note, as I say, if the idea of traveling truly scares you, then this picture here is proof that mission accomplished. You should truly get out there, see the world, and just understand that the world is your oyster. If you don't take that risk, if you don't take that shot and bet on yourself, you never know. Thank you for listening to my island story, Global Vibes Only.
Wasn't that such a beautiful story? I'm always so impressed every time I hear that talk. Give it up for Hanan. So at this time, I'd like to take a 10-minute intermission. Feel free to grab food. We have drinks open now. We'll have our speakers take some pictures, and I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. Thank you guys so much for hanging around. All right, everyone. I hope you've all had a chance to grab food. Another thing I forgot to mention is the brown bags there are up for grabs for all of our guests. And one more thing to note, we are going to do the giveaway at the end, so try to hang out for the end till the end if possible. All the raffle tickets that you guys picked up are going to be put into a bowl and randomly picked. And if you don't have a raffle ticket, feel free to come up to Anaga. She'll be sitting at the table in this corner. We are going to do like a giveaway of like 4 gift cards at the end, so don't miss out on that. But I'll let people kind of get back to their seats. And yeah, please grab one of those brown bags if you haven't already. All right. I hope you guys have enjoyed all the talks thus far. The second half of this event is going to be just as engaging, and some of the talks might come as a surprise. Other ones might help you learn something new. I hope you guys are excited. But next up we have Bobby. I didn't practice saying your last name. Bobby Marcinowskis. Marcinowski. Marskanowskis. Bobby Marskanowskis is a financial economics student at the U of R and is excited to end his senior year with a bang. As a student, he has been interested in the intersection between art and economics. The title of Bobby's talk is Democratization of Art. Give it up for Bobby, everyone.
Oh, whoa. Oh my goodness. Wow, I'm so loud. Ooh. Okay, we're missing the first slides. Let's go for it. So, have you ever heard of that song, Vienna by Billy Joel? You know that song, Slow Down, You Crazy Child. It's a song about the crossroads in Billy Joel's life and historically in Vienna. Every time I fly into Vienna, I think of that song. It just reminds me of that feeling of fleeing one place and returning to another. I was able to go to Vienna through the Melior Scholars Program here at the University of Rochester. My plan was to go and look at some of my favorite artists, Gustav Klimt and Egon Schiele. They are turn-of-the-century artists who revolutionized the drab Viennese art before them. My plan was go look at their art, maybe make a project around it, who's to say? By the time I left Vienna, I felt as though I may never leave it, ever again, and I'll always return to it. Vienna is a beautiful city. It is steeped with history and culture. Every street is lined with this beautiful architecture. It feels like heaven every place that you walk. And it's the beginning of Freudian slips and cafe culture. It's absolutely incredible. Over my time, I was there for a month. I went to galleries, I went to different tours, tried different food, really got ingrained in the culture there. I went to the Belvedere on one of my last days there. The Belvedere is a beautiful Baroque palace by the Habsburgs, the former emperors of the Habsburg Empire. You may know them based on their giant lips. They ruled over Austria, Spain, and the surrounding areas. The Belvedere, beautiful place that it is, the true masterpiece was inside, the artwork itself. Specifically, the Jewel of Vienna, The Kiss by Gustav Klimt, his masterpiece. This artwork leaves you without words. It is gorgeous. You have these feminine swirls grounded by these masculine brocks. The subject is simple, and the ornamentation is complex. A fond embrace, gilded swirls, the dichotomy of gender. It's truly beautiful. You stand there looking at this piece, wanting more, continually looking at it, hopefully keeping a permanent flash of gold in your memory. You stand there for a lifetime, or at least you could. However, I did not. I was primarily focused on a little black screen next to the painting. It said, "The Kiss NFTs, digital gold, 10,000 pieces of this digital reproduction." This was so intriguing. I've never seen anything like this before. This is what I wanted to do my project on, the democratization of art through technology. So what do you get when you get a Kiss NFT? What are you actually getting? Well, all you're getting is a little tiny piece that you see right here. It's quite literally 1/10,000th of it, a little tiny square out of this entire painting, a couple brush strokes. And this is worth $330, or 0.65 Ethereum, which means that the digital composition of this entire piece equals to about 3.3 million. This is a gross undervaluing of this piece. This piece is invaluable. It shouldn't be worth anything because it's so valuable. But yet, here we are, selling this entire piece for 3.3 million. But how does this make sense in context? What are other NFTs looking like? So here is an example. This is CryptoPunk 7840. This is, as you can see, very profound piece. Blue skin, pipe, like, you know, it really gets to something, right? Now, let me ask, how much do you guys think this is worth? Raise your hands. How much do you think it's worth? Shout it out. 5.6 billion. It's a crazy number. Any other suggestions? So true. Well, so this piece is actually worth 7.56 million. This, honestly, is just a couple pixels on a screen. So is it truly worth that amount? Compared especially to this other NFT, this only $330. Should they both be worth millions, or should they both only be worth 20 cents? At the end of the day, they're just pixels on a screen. What makes the digital value different? And I think this is an important time to state, I am not an NFT bro. I do not own any NFTs. I personally think that the NFT market is very arbitrary, it is unstable, and personally, I hate the digitization of art. Art is meant to be seen in person. You're supposed to see it in the gallery. You're supposed to see the brushstrokes on the painting, feel the emotion that the artist is trying to convey. But when you digitize it, you suddenly lose all the emotion. It becomes lifeless. It becomes dead on your screen. But I digress. NFTs in general can become a good technology that institutions can leverage and take advantage of. And what this means is, why do we have NFTs next to the KISS in the Belvedere? Well, it centers around this idea of democratization of art. What do I mean when I say democratizing art? What does it mean to democratize? To democratize means to make available to others, to take what was previously limited to the museums, the private individuals, and dusty gallery basements, and give everyone the opportunity to sell, own, and purchase these pieces. Or, in this case, a piece of a piece. But let me give you a practical example of how democratization works. Let's say I go to New York City, I go to a gallery in Chelsea, and I purchase a painting for an outrageous sum of money, let's say $1 million. I now own that painting. I can do whatever I want to it. I could put it in my house in the Hamptons, I could sell it, or I could destroy it. There's nothing preventing me from ruining this painting except my own assumption of its value. But let's say that this is a Warhol, or a Matisse, or even a Klimt. Then I've effectively destroyed a piece of history, a piece of culture, and I alone can make that decision. So now what if I leverage these opportunities with new technologies to share the ownership of these pieces? And in a small way, give other people the ownership that they need to share, and the impact I then have on this piece not only affects my ownership of it, but of all other contributors as well. I do not solely own it. This is the crux of democratization. We share the costs, but also the benefit. It doesn't have to be about the destruction of a painting, but also of the benefits. When you sell it, I'm not the only one benefiting. I'm not the only one getting all that money. I can share it and distribute it with others. So what if we put this on a grander scale? What if we put this in every museum, private works, private galleries? This gives people the access to view and own these pieces. And that's what museums have always been about. They are public art spaces that was created in Vienna at the Belvedere in 1776. They opened their doors to the public because they knew that people, one person, does not have the authority to view one painting. It should be open for everyone to see and consume. I would love to own the KISS. I know exactly where I would hang it in my parents' house. I would love to wake up to it every single morning and see the beautiful gold. But I shouldn't be able to do that. The value I have of that painting does not outweigh the value of millions of people seeing it every day. But at the end of the day, these public artworks, they're still owned by a government or a nonprofit. They get to choose who sees these paintings and when they see it. For example, the Louvre, they have 8% of their collection on display currently. The Guggenheim, which is the gallery in New York City, that's a little spirally thing, they have 3%. These are culturally important pieces, pieces that should be seen by all people at all times. So what this technology allows, it allows you to own these pieces in a small way and demand that they're being shown, demand that the public get to see them. And in return, these institutions, they have the income and the financial means to maintain and acquire these paintings so we can preserve them throughout history. Because that's what curation is all about. It's about preserving these pieces throughout time, preserving this kiss. We will never have another Gustav Klimt. We can never reproduce this painting. Therefore, we must preserve it throughout history. This fond embrace symbolizes that sense of what it is to love and to be loved. Each gilded swirl is a wish and a hope for that moment for ourselves, a kiss that lasts throughout centuries. And that emotion is not something a museum should decide, but the people. Thank you. Have a great day.
Give it up for Bobby. Wasn't that amazing? Would anyone here buy an NFT of a piece of art if you could? So Bobby had an impact on you all, I see. Well, I'm very, very happy to have Bobby share his story with you. Next up, we have Yasmin Mattox from iZone. She's going to be talking about active learning. The title of her speech is From Inquiry to Investigation. I forgot my paper. But give it up for Yasmin. She's going to be talking about active learning, and she's from iZone.
Raise my voice a bit, but in an appropriate manner. So, hi everyone, good afternoon. It's great to see you all on a really nice, relaxed Sunday. I was saying earlier to several of the speakers that I do get butterflies, I do get stage fright, I think as many do. It's something about events during the work week, the school week, Monday through Friday, really get me riled up. But on a Sunday, this is a nice and different vibe. So, kudos to the planning committee for selecting this day. So I'm Yasmin Maddox. I'm the director over at Barbara J. Berger iZone. If you've ever wondered what the eyes are about, take your pick. We've got several of them all along the walls in the space. But oftentimes, I really focus on the bookends, helping students and other members of the university community go from inquiry, because we are very intentionally placed in the libraries, to impact. And my brief talk today for you all will really be about active learning, and active learning as a means of pushing against the status quo and finding and doing better for as many people as possible. So I'm going to start. I am going to start. I was thinking I had another slide to begin, but I'm actually going to start here at the end. So, if you are wondering, yes, that is little Yasmin at the age of roughly 4 or 5 in the late 80s, sitting on my grandfather's lap. My grandfather, Vernon Milton Bailey, was a man of many talents. He was perhaps the first active learner that I ever really knew. And I like to think that I come from a family of active learners, and I'll dig into a bit about what that means and how I'm using that term. But my grandfather, again, at this very tender age, gave me the real, okay? When quiet is kept, I was working his absolute last nerve. If you can picture it, it was about late August, 1989. My mom, who was still practicing as a psychologist, was actually working on her law school studies. She was practicing for the bar because she was transitioning careers. And so it was my luck, and I mean that sincerely and in some cases sarcastically, to spend time with my grandparents at their home in Washington, D.C. While my memory has gotten a bit hazy through the years, one thing is certain. I was certainly on this man's last nerves because I wanted him to do all of the things with me. My grandmother was at a social event, I can remember that much. But I pretty much wanted him to provide me with all sorts of information, all sorts of, lessons, tell me this, I want to know that. Typical things that young children do, and we should be encouraging, right? This love of learning. My grandfather, very deadpan, looks at me and says, Yasmin, you need to sit in your boredom for a bit. And I said, okay. And being 4, I really did not know what that meant. But he was good enough to show me the way, which looked like pulling out what no longer exists, but at the time was really powerful, something called the mini pages. The mini pages was, as you could probably guess, a newspaper, a periodical, really with the main audience being children. And so I was able to look at this, learn different things, read the words that were on the pages, but also engage with the lessons and the information that was being given to me. The mini pages would have scavenger hunts, prizes for doing certain activities, and it started to spark a lot of connections in my mind. It started to make me more active and to take me from the expectation of having information constantly given to me or fed to me, to putting me or having myself, put myself in situations where I could learn, where I could test things out, where I could experiment. So now, passive versus active learning. We all may have a good idea about what this means. I'm going to say what it means in this context, with hopefully the help of my clicker. Okay. Passive learning and active learning themselves, neither one is superior to the other, right? We both use them for different things. With passive learning, oftentimes the benefit is that there's some knowledge or some information that really we could benefit from rote memorization, right? Take your pick. It may be something that you need to know for safety reasons. It may be a class that has a lot of information that you could think about thematically to help you memorize the content. With active learning, we're really talking about more of an experiential process where you are given the opportunity to, right off the bat, push back perhaps against what you may have heard about a topic or otherwise thought or known about a topic, to really start the process of exploring ideas. Exploring them because something about them piques your curiosity, and you're able to fuel your curiosity to reach out to others and hopefully ask them what they've experienced and if they can share with you. So when we think about active learning and the process of active learning and the benefits of it, I'm really talking about the process of understanding humans, understanding what humans need, understanding what humans desire, and understanding how humans could be best supported, how we could all support each other if we actively listen to each other, and if we really put ourselves in situations where, as has already been articulated by speakers, we feel a bit uncomfortable, but still push through. Oops. So, stories. The key to active learning, as I mentioned about human needs, is the ability to empathize. So when I talk about empathy, and oftentimes when we talk about empathy at iZone, we're also talking about the ability to share our own story and to really listen to the stories of others, right? Those stories can be communicated in writing, they can be communicated orally, however the form. The purpose of communicating these stories is that we can better expose ourselves to million points of data about the lives of other people. What pain points they have, what delight do they find in certain activities? How can we connect the dots, if not on our own, but collectively with other people and collaboratively with other people to do things better? So stories matter. Now, as it was said, I believe, during the talk on AI, humans have been learning, actively learning, for much longer than we've been passively learning, right? So when you think of Homo sapiens, when you think about the earliest modern humans, and the fact that their learning wasn't predicated on, okay, let me read this book. That came much later. It was predicated on, ouch, this fire is hot. Or what happens if I peer over a cliff? Hopefully nobody had to learn that lesson too often to their detriment. But we naturally learn through experimentation, through touch, through sensation. We are tactile learners, we're kinesthetic learners. While we can also benefit from reading, we primarily learn about the world around us through engagement, through being participants in our own stories and the stories of others. So this process allows us to not only experiment, but to take the data that we collect, along with the stories that we bounce off of from each other, to do better. And you might wonder, what is better? Better is taking the information that we harness, that we collect, that we use, to have some kind of beneficial outcome. In the libraries especially, and certainly when people come to iZone, they're like, well, we know that you have events, workshops, we even have credit-bearing courses. Why is iZone in the libraries to begin with? And I often say, the way I like to think of it is, we are a nexus for the information that exists throughout the entirety of River Campus libraries and even the University of Rochester libraries. When you think of active learning in this respect, hopefully you think of the fact that we've got wonderful collections where you as students and anybody else from the community really could come in and speak to librarians, speak to student employees, and talk about topics that matter to you and how collectively you can connect dots to do things better. An example that I really dig into, especially over the last few years, has been the fact that how many places in the greater Rochester area or elsewhere can say that they have a really neato library that looks at medieval culture and history? I give you the example of Robbins. So when we talk about active learning, it's not enough to just look at the pages perhaps on the manuscripts that go back to the 1000s, right? And that examine what people were feeling, what they were smelling, the despair they were having during the bubonic plague and the plagues that happened thereafter, but to connect those experiences with our own that we've had just recently over the last few years. To let the words of those manuscripts leap off of the pages, dangle in front of you as you talk with other students and members of the community to piece together what information we can take with us, not only from the 1000s, but the 2000s, piece it together, and then think of how we're gonna do better should and when the next pandemic hit us. Ultimately, we could be participants of active learning not only for our own benefit, to pique our own intellectual curiosity, and to really lead lives that have meaning that we can create based on what we see, how we think, and ultimately what we know, but so that we can harness that energy and that information to do better as a society, so that the status quo, whatever it may be, whether it's inequitable realities or disparities in healthcare, in education, in cultural diplomacy, wherever there are issues, we can look at how we can be active participants in our learning to connect to each other better, and ultimately chart a brighter course for the future. So I come back to this final slide again, just to point out a couple of things that I still look at and I still think on and reflect on 30-something years later as an active learner. If you see the lamp right there with the red shade, a wonderful piece that my grandparents picked up when my grandfather was on assignment in Bangkok, Thailand, because he was a foreign service officer. When you look at the nesting tables right under, that was also from Thailand. You can't see the full living room, but there were bits and pieces from all over the world, which represented the artifacts of the stories that my grandparents had heard in their travels, and how they translated those artifacts into learnings that they then passed down to me, and that I now make use of when I'm thinking about the challenges that you as students at the University of Rochester present to not only me, but also student employees at iZone working on programming. So ultimately, this process of active learning isn't just for the individual, it's for society, and it's for the long arc of history, so that the information, whether it's from a millennia ago to a millennia in the future, is used as a totality, is used in a participatory way, and is used as a manner of pushing back against the status quo and creating a brighter future for us all. Thank you.
Give it up for Yasmin, everyone. All right. Next up, we have Geneva. Geneva hails from the great state of Texas. They're a third-year student working as a peer advisor for the Political Science Department and a recipient for the Schwartz Discover Grant. They are currently pursuing research on fascist inclinations in America. Outside of their studies, Geneva enjoys writing, interior design, and spending time with their dog, Daisy. Geneva's title of their talk is The Power of the Individual. Please give it up for Geneva.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes? No? Yeah, cool. Okay, thank you. I would like to begin by giving a huge thanks to the people at ROCTalk who have put on this fantastic event. I would like to thank the people who are here today, and I would like to thank my fellow speakers who have put in so much work to be here. I'm going to begin my talk today with a question. It's not a trick question. I genuinely want to know who in this room believes that they have the power to change the world? One person. Okay, a couple of people. You guys don't count. You got on the stage. It's fine. Okay. To everyone else in this room who did not raise your hand, this talk is for you. And I'm glad to tell you that you are wrong, that you should be raising your hand. You should believe that you have the power to change the world, because you have the power to change the world in 3 ways. You have the power to change yourself, you have the power to change the people around you, and you have the power to change institutions. And I was thinking about the kind of power that I have as an individual. And I think I feel powerless because I imagine myself in this huge, big world with thousands of square miles and cities that I will never visit and 8 billion people that I will never meet. And in the middle of that big world, I'm just a small person. And then if I begin to think of myself as not being one in a billion, 1 in 8 billion, but as one in my own world, the ability that I have to change that world is so much greater. Not only am I not challenging, I don't just have to fix climate change, I don't just have to end world hunger, I don't have to end war to make a difference in the world, because I can make the difference to the people around me. I can make a difference here on this very campus, if only the first step that I have to take is to believe that what I do matters. And it does. It matters to the people around us. I recently met Nick. And Nick and I met because I was selling a little gay pride pin on Facebook Marketplace, and he responded. And I go to open up his message, and it reads, "Faggot. And if you don't think you have the power to change the world, you can always make it worse." But Nick was one of a dozen people who sent me similar messages. And I go through the laborious process of opening them, reporting them, blocking them, deleting them, open, report, block, delete, and I get to Nick, and I'm so tired. And I tell him, Nick, the great irony of it is that I'm selling my things online to raise money for my church's food distribution program. And he responds, "But you can't be a Jesus follower and a homosexual." And I say, "Yet I'm raising alms. What are you doing, Nick?" And he goes, "Well, I'm fixing my 30-year-old truck instead of sending it to the dump." And I was like, okay, so he's trying to solve climate change. Sure, we can talk about that. I said, "Are you making it more fuel efficient?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Slay." And he goes, "Fag." And I go, "Nicholas, get a grip." And he goes, "Go read your Bible." And I say, "Which part?" And so he sends me a screenshot of a Google search that says, "What does the Bible say about homosexuals?" And it populates Leviticus 18, which reads, "Man shall not lie with man as he lies with woman, for it is an abomination." And I send Nicholas back an article, and at the top of it just so happened to be a picture of a gun, and inscribed on the gun was the Holy Bible. And he says, "Is that a gun threat?" I said, "No." And he goes, "Okay." I said, "Go read the article." He goes, "No." And I said, "Fine." I said, "The gun is an allusion to the way that the Bible has been mistranslated for political agenda. And in this case, that political agenda is homophobia." And he goes, "I see." And I said, "He sees." And so I carry on. I said, what that article is talking about is the fact that that particular verse in original Hebrew was a condemnation of the ancient Roman practice where an older man would take a younger boy to be a sexual mentor. It was a condemnation of pedophilia, not homosexuality. And he goes, "I see." He sees by believing that I have the power to engage with him, by believing that I know to be true, that I have the power to make him see. And I have the power to change his mind. And it's not only Nicholas. It's not only just some stranger on the internet who I have the power to change. I was recently in line at Douglas getting breakfast, and the guy in front of me was making small talk with the lady who was serving us eggs. And he goes, "How's your day?" And she said, "It's so much better now that you've asked me that." And he kind of looks at her, and she said, "You were the first student all day to talk to me." And I looked down at my watch. It was 10:30 in the morning, and the dining hall had been open for hours at that point. And I thought to myself, we all have power. We have the power to not only change minds, but to engage with people, to not only change their minds, but change their days. And I vowed to myself, I vowed to be purposeful in the way that I speak to people, not only to change their minds, but to engage with them as people. "Hi, how are you? Thank you. Yes, no." And so I've changed the way that I go about engaging with the dining hall workers, and I've become really good friends with one of them, actually. And one day, I was sitting with my friend for lunch, and I see one of my friends who works at the dining hall walk past. And I wave to her, and she comes over, and she speaks with us for a little bit, and my friend offers her a seat. She says, "Sit with us." And I was taken aback. That was so human. It was so kind of my friend, and I thought, why didn't I think to do that? And if I'm being honest, shamefully honest, I think the reason was because that was just outside of the realm of my imagination, that was not the roles that we had, that she worked there and I ate there, and it just never occurred to me that we could sit together. And so the same way that I make sure to ask how their day is going, I make sure to ask her to sit with me every time I see her. And so one day we're sitting together, and she's looking around, and she looks scared. And I go, "What are you looking for?" She goes, "I'm looking for my lady." I said, "Your lady?" She goes, "Yeah, my boss. I'm worried she's going to come over and tell me to get back to work." And I said, "Okay." And she goes, "But you know what?" And I said, "What?" She said, "She'd have to ask for your permission." I'm looking at her. And she goes, "Yeah, the hierarchy in the dining hall goes gray shirts, black shirts, white coats, students." She said that our $89,000 years in tuition, or through your scholarship, the way that the university is getting $89,000 from you, they're telling the people at the dining hall that they are there to serve us. And so if her boss wants to send her back to work, they have to ask for my permission because I had asked for her to sit with me. And I'm thinking about, how is power so invisible? And just because it's invisible does not mean that we don't have it. We have the power to change minds. We have the power to change days. We have the power to challenge to challenge institutions, to challenge institutional power as we know it. And I go back to how I felt before, thinking that I'm powerless, and it's not true. We see that it's not true. And I'm thinking about how students on this campus, all of us, are powerful. And I'm particularly thinking about the students who are protesting for justice in Palestine. And thinking that I'm powerless, I thought that they were powerless, that what they're doing didn't matter because this institution is not where decisions are made, that this institution is not where power is held. But I started talking to people. And one of my friends told me recently that the institution had issued him a letter, and I'm sure many other students and potentially faculty and staff, that he was supposed to divest from a weapons company. The institution that the students are protesting is actually making change. And they're only making that change because students are braving the cold, slushy snow because they're not allowed in buildings. Students are going out for fear of disciplinary action. Students are going out in fear of being assaulted by campus security. And what they're doing, it matters. They're making functional change. And it's not only change at this institution. The president of our university is being called in front of Congress to answer for what it is that the students on our very campus are protesting for. Our voices are being heard not only here because we're making them heard, they are one step away from being relayed to Congress, and it is important that we stand by our morals. It is important that we believe that what we have to say is powerful. And it is important that we relay our message. We relay our message that we will not stand for cruelty, we will not stand for the bill that is currently sitting in front of the Senate for $95 billion in American taxes that is going to go to a country that is going to turn around and use that financial aid to buy weapons from our government that we know are going to be turned around and used against the civilians in Palestine to kill more than 34,000 people. It is important that we believe in our own morals, and we believe that they are important, and that we believe that we have power. And we have power not only as individuals, but we have power when we come together. We have power when we come together to protest. We have power as a university. We have power as all of the citizens of the United States of America. And if you leave here with one lesson today, I hope it is that you believe that you have power. Thank you.
Thank you, Geneva. Give it up for Geneva, everyone. Does everyone feel a little bit more powerful after that? Do you guys believe in what you can do as students, as faculty, as people? Yeah, I hope so. So I wanted to kind of close out our event saying thank you to our amazing e-board for all the effort that we've put in this event. My vice president and I were talking this morning about how we've been thinking about this event for an entire year now, which is insane. And I'm so glad that it's been such a huge success. And I'm so thankful for all of you for being here. So give it up for e-board. Yeah. And, of course, this event couldn't be possible without our wonderful speakers, so please, a huge round of applause for them once again. And, very importantly, we could not have done this event without our wonderful sponsors like BIC, the Dean's Office, OEI, and SA, along with our co-sponsors, College Democrats, College Feminists, and Out in STEM. Thank you guys so much for attending today. And yes, round of applause. So before we end today, I'd like to do the raffle now. Yes? Okay. So we're going to have a bowl of tickets with everyone's choices, with everyone's ticket numbers in there. Right. Just figuring things out. Okay, cool. All right. So we're going to pick 4 tickets. So I think are all of the first numbers similar? Yeah, okay. Yeah, so last 3253. No. Okay. We will try again. Oh, then come up, get a gift card. Yeah. Awesome. All right, one more. 256? Yeah, come on, get a gift card. Do the Visa. All right. 248? Yeah. Thank you. You had to get that Wegmans card. No, you can. All right. Last one. 241. No, we'll pick another one. 244. Oh man. Okay. 245. Yeah. There you go. All right, and before we close it out, we also wanted to do a huge thank you for our speakers. So if all of you could come on stage, that would be great. So we really want to thank all of them for all the effort that they've put into this event, with gift cards for them as well, and some flowers. Of course. All right. So one for you. Give it up for Geneva. One for Bobby. Give it up for Bobby. One for Hanan. Give it up for Hanan. We need one more. No. One for Masum. Give it up for Masum. And finally, one for Yasmin. Thank you so much. Give it up for her. And thank you so much to all of you. Could we just give them a huge round of applause? If you guys want to take a bow. Yeah.
Okay, I also got flowers for Kirtana because I want to say a big thank you to her. She's the main reason this whole event has come together. So I got you some flowers as well. Here you go.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you for coming. Feel free to grab food on your way out and grab a bag if you hadn't already. Feel free to grab another one for your roommate or friends. But thank you, guys, and have a great night. Yeah, Rock Talks.